at your ministry, he's not going to look at how well you preach. He's not going to look at how well you sing. He's not going to look how well you stood on the usher board and you smiled and you opened the door with great pause. He's not going to look at that. He's going to say, where you there when they needed you? When somebody needed a word, preacher, did you have a word to give them? Yeah. Mother, when somebody needed you to pray, could you be there for them?
Yes, sir.
Father, when they needed you to just encourage them, were you there? That's what he's looking for. He's looking for your faithfulness. And so that's why Paul said, you know what? Don't get caught up in trying to be the best preacher. Right. Matter of fact, if you read the Bible, you'll find out that Paul was not the greatest preacher. Matter of fact, if you read the Bible, guess what, y'all? And I know some of y'all are going to sleep on me, but it's okay. They went to sleep on Paul. But let me tell you what happened when they went to sleep on Paul. They fell out the wonder and died. Paul had to go raise him up. So I want to let you know I got some healing powers in my hands. Amen. Paul was not the great. He was not a great orator. He was not a great preacher. He was not a great speaker. But one thing that Paul was, he was faithful. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you look at the gospel, you'll find out that at the latter part of Jesus' ministry, when he was getting ready to die, he looked at his 3 disciples that he had called to go him to pray. And he said, could you not pray with me for an hour? Yeah. He came back and they were sleeping. He came back again. He said, can y'all just not pray with me? Because they was not faithful. And God said, don't even worry about that. God already knew that. Guess what? Even though Peter, James, and John was not operating like they should have, God already saw a man named Paul. Right. It's amazing that guess what? Just because you start working, that don't mean the ministry start working. That's right. When you start doing your thing, God just raise somebody else up to do it. And sometimes I found out as a pastor, y'all go up and say, brother, you are messed up because you keep looking at people. That's it. And not me. Amen. See, when I left my job, one thing that God realized, I said, you know what, I'm going to leave. God paid me real good. I don't know how to do it, God. But God said, Roosevelt, God didn't pay you. He said, I gave them the money to pay you. I paid you. You just have to check your name on it. Oh, some of y'all think y'all job pay y'all. Y'all still thinking that. Guess what? When they ain't got the money, they can't pay you. The reason they can pay you is because God allowed them to do what they're doing so they can pay you. The problem that we have, we're looking at the world as the people are paying us. Right. As a pastor, guess what? I don't get the church paying me. No. I thank y'all for what y'all giving me. Believe me, I'm not complaining. But I know my ultimate gift comes from God. Yes, everything that we get, all the blessings, they really come from God. So guess what? When you start, when you don't want to bless me, God will raise somebody else up to bless me. Right. So Paul said, Roosevelt, he said, don't get caught up in who ain't good, who ain't the best, but just look at the ones that are being found faithful. He said, because that's all I require of a steward, is that he be found faithful. Yes, and as I was thinking about this, y'all, in school, we had this thing, and I hate this, y'all, because every 6 weeks we had this thing called report card. And I got to admit, y'all, there are some times that I want to forge my mama's name. Because I knew on the report card, I knew that there would be some grades that my mama would not be pleased with. All right. So if God had to grade us, if he had to do a report card on life in 4 different areas, how would you do in your walk? All right. You know, the Bible tells us we have to walk circumspectly. Yes, sir. We have to walk worthy of our vocation. Yes. So I don't know, if God had to judge you on the way you walk, how many would get an A or how many would get an F? You ain't got to say that. This is a private test. You know, you just know for yourself. And if he had to judge us on our word. Yeah. Now, I told you now, we got gross because my mama had a good word. But if God had to judge you based on your word, can people depend on your word? You know, in the old days, guess what? When a person couldn't pay their debt, guess what they would do? They would go get their kids. You know, right now, y'all, come on, y'all know a lot of times when the bill collector call up, like they're just a bill collector, they ain't standing by him. You can't do that anyway. But did you know in the Old Testament when you could not pay a debt, they would get your kids? Amen. There would be no outstanding debt if they did that now. I know we got somebody saying, yeah, they can take my kids. And when they have this debt right here, amen. Amen. But if he had to judge us on our word, how would we do? If he had to judge us on the way we witness to people about him, would you get an A? Look at somebody and say, would you get an F? Amen. Private test. Don't look at my paper. Amen. Don't look at my paper. Amen. But if he had to judge you by the way you worship. Yes. You know, in the book of Amos chapter 5, guess what God said in the book of Amos chapter 5? You can go and read it another time. God talks about all the stuff that we do. He talks about our worship, our coming together. He talks about our singing with our instrument. He said, guess what? God said, guess what? I reject your worship. Because it's not based on righteousness. That's it. You know what we have to do? Every week, Starting Sunday, we should live such a life of worship that it reflects on Sunday. That we worship God all week, and our lifestyle come in and exemplify that we have worshiped all week. When y'all come in, y'all don't look like y'all been worshiping. Amen. Pastor Glover, go on and get it over. You preach fast. I like the way you preach fast. So hurry up. Amen. But if you had the base, if God had to grade you on the way you worship, it's amazing. A lot of times, I still remember when we went to the basketball game. We always talk about that. When we went to the basketball game, all the men that was at the basketball game, when they would shoot, the guy would just jump and holler, and just holler like crazy. But yet, when we come to church, it's like we have to beg you to say amen. Amen. And the guys always teach me, because I don't know a lot about sports, but I have been over some of the guys' house. When they make a touchdown and play football, you ought to see the guys in the church. Amen. I'm serious. These guys are so serious when it comes to sports. You ought to see them. Man, they so intense. Oh, and they don't even raise their hand in church. Can't even get them to say amen. And the Bible tells us we have to raise our hand. But you know what? I see them in that game. Go! Yes. When we come to church, don't feel like worshiping today. So if you had to base you on your worship, would you get an A or would you get an F? Now I know a lot of you been taking the test, and a lot of you got F, but guess what? You get some bonus points gonna come on this test. Amen. But if he had to base it, amen. In the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 42, Jesus is saying, he said, who then is a faithful steward in whom the Lord will make rule over his household and give him his meat in due season? God is simply asking the question. He said, who is working to the point that, guess what, they ain't letting nobody stop them. They keep on doing what they're doing because they know that I'm coming back. He said, who is working like that? He said, when you find somebody that is working like that, that is the faithful steward that I will give the rulership of my house. I will allow that person to operate in true blessings. When you find somebody that truly is working for God, they walk in favor. They walk in favor. As I was thinking about this, I remember, and I see it with my son David, I remember when I was little, when I used to get mad with my mom. I guess my mom used to always say, and I did not understand this until I got grown. My mom used to sit there and say, "He gonna hurt you more than it hurt. He gonna hurt you more than it hurt me." She said, "This ain't hurt me. He gonna hurt you." When I used to be mad, my mom, she said, "He gonna hurt you. It ain't hurt me." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I'm gonna be mad with you. He ain't gonna hurt you." And so my son Davey, he get a little tantrum, he get mad, and I found myself that, guess what? You ain't hurt me. And I realized what my mama said. Guess what my mama said? She said, "Guess what? When you're mad with me, you're blocking. Or you're blocking me out. What you're doing, you're blocking your blessing." All right. When you are blocking me out, you are blocking out your blessings. All right. God is saying, guess what? When you don't do what is right, when you don't live right, live whole like God is calling you to live, you will not walk in the true blessings of God. A lot of times you're blocking your blessing by the way you serve God. My service sometimes is blocking my blessing. And Colossians 3 said that, it said, whatever you shall do, do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. He said, whatever you do it unto men. He said, do it unto men. When he said heartily, he said, do it with your whole heart and your whole soul. He said, you're doing it unto men. No, he said, you're doing it unto the Lord and not unto me. See, I realize, y'all, the reason a lot of times in church, the reason we don't serve like we need to, because we think we serve for leadership and not the Lord. I'm serving and ushers. I'm going to be an usher because Sister Whipper want me to be an usher. No, you're serving because God got you in that position. And when you're faithful in that position, God will open up doors for you everywhere else. God, look at your stewardship and what you're doing right now. Even if you're on a job, you're not working for that man. You know, I used to get mad because the last supervisor I had, at first I used to realize, I said, this joker's going to write my raise. I said, I know he ain't going to get that good one. But then as I realized, guess what? He can write it, but guess what? If it's God will for me to get a raise, he finna write down some bad things. God have to turn his hand around and write blessing when he won't try to do cursing. Don't you know that when people try to come against you, guess what? They come against God. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us in the book of Acts, chapter 9, when Paul was going to persecute the church on this road to Damascus, he ran into this man named Jesus, and he knocked him out the heart. Probably verse 9, verse 4, around verse 4, he said,